Welcome, dear listener, to the Deep Dive. This is where we plunge into a stack of your sources to unearth surprising facts and some really profound insights. Today, we're embarking on, well, a pretty ambitious exploration. We're sifting through a truly eclectic collection of writings.
Yeah, really eclectic.
We've got ancient philosophy, powerful speeches, modern self-help, psychological research. It's quite a mix.
It really is.
It's a journey into what makes us tick. How we communicate and what drives us to create change in the world.
Indeed. And this deep dive, it isn't really about one specific event or figure, is it? It's more like a rich tapestry.
Right.
Woven from just diverse voices across centuries, across continents. We're looking at these enduring themes of human potential, the power of the individual, and that intricate art of shaping our realities, both, internal and external. What's truly fascinating here, I think, is how these seemingly disparate ideas, they start to connect. They show us these common threads in the human experience, revealing this kind of continuous conversation about what it means to live a meaningful life.
Exactly. Our mission today is to try and extract the core wisdom from all these varied perspectives, help you see how personal agency, effective communication, and the pursuit of justice are all deeply intertwined.
Yeah, they really feed into each other.
Get ready for some aha moments, because we're about to unpack some truly powerful ideas. Ideas that could, well, reshape your understanding of what's possible. Not just for your own life, maybe, but for the impact you can have on the world around you.
The seed of opportunity, cultivating your inner acres of diamonds.
Okay, so let's unpack this incredible, almost counterintuitive idea first. This idea that opportunity isn't always out there over the horizon somewhere.
Right, in some distant, glittering promise.
Exactly, but it's often right under our very noses. Russell H. Conwell, he was a truly remarkable figure. Lawyer, preacher, soldier, educator.
Quite the resume.
Right. He spent over 50 years delivering his famous lecture, Acres of Diamonds. Delivered it more than 5,000 times.
5,000, that's dedication.
Isn't it? And what made it so compelling was his unique approach. He tailored it to every single town he visited.
That's right. Conwell's genius wasn't just in the message itself, but really in the delivery. He'd arrive early, spend days talking to, the postmaster, the barber.
Getting the local scoop.
Totally. The school principal, visiting factories, stores, really getting a feel for the local conditions, the history, and most importantly, what opportunities they had failed to seize.
Oh, right.
Then he'd stand up and highlight those specific, often overlooked opportunities right there in their own environment. It made his message intensely personal.
And undeniably relevant, I bet.
Absolutely, for each audience.
So when you put Conwell's local observations alongside this idea of cultivating our inner potential, what's the real takeaway? Is it that the external acres of diamonds are only visible if your mind is, ready to see them?
That's precisely the synergy. Yeah, Conwell's core message, it stayed the same, right? Regardless of the town, it was. Every man and woman has the opportunity to make more of themselves right where they are.
In their own environment.
In their own environment, using their own skill, their own energy, and with their own friends. He wasn't telling people to pack up and chase some gold rush far away.
Yeah.
He was saying, look closer. And the act of looking closer, well, that requires a shift in your internal perspective. You have to be open to seeing it.
And he illustrated this with these really vivid stories.
Yeah.
Like the famous parable of Ali Hafed. What, for you, is its most powerful lesson? It seems almost counterintuitive, where we often fail to look.
The Ali Hafed story, it's a classic for a reason. Ali Hafed, he was this wealthy Persian farmer, heard this really tantalizing description of diamonds.
Congealed drops of sunlight.
Exactly, congealed drops of sunlight.
Yeah.
And how finding a mine could make his children royalty.
Wow.
And he became so utterly discontented, right, so fixated on finding diamonds somewhere else, that he sold his beautiful farm, left his family, wandered across continents searching, and failed. Eventually died in poverty, a broken man.
Tragic.
And the tragic irony, the man who bought Ali Hafed's old farm, one day he's just digging for water for his camels.
Just a practical need.
Right. And he finds these glittering stones in the sand, right there, on the land Ali Hafed had abandoned.
No way.
Turned out to be the fabled Golconda diamond mine, one of the richest in the world. The diamonds, the immense wealth, they were there all along, right in his own backyard.
Wow.
So the profound lesson is about that psychological trap, Believing true opportunity must always lie somewhere other than where you are right now.
It's a powerful metaphor.
Yeah, for how our internal discontent can just blind us to the external realities right in front of us.
It's an astonishing human blind spot, isn't it? We romanticize what's far away, miss the potential staring us in the face.
Yep.
Conwell had another great story about this involving a farmer in Massachusetts and a silver mine.
He did. This farmer in Massachusetts, born on his homestead, lived there his whole life. And for years, when he was bargaining over his land, he'd literally sit on this block of native silver.
Sitting on it.
Sitting on it, 8 inches square, right next to his stone fence. He'd rubbed it with his sleeve countless times, probably just thought it was a weird rock.
Never recognized it.
Never saw it for what it was, immense
not.
wealth. Eventually, he sells the land to a professor of mineralogy, someone who, by profession should have recognized it.
You think so?
But he also failed to notice the value sitting right there. This professor, despite his specialized knowledge, sold the land too.
Unbelievable.
It took the next owner, just digging for potatoes, to finally discover it. So this isn't just about missed opportunity, it's about a profound lack of perception.
Yeah.
Even among those supposedly educated to see such things. It just underlines that often our environment is rich with potential, but we lack the internal framework or maybe the observational skills to recognize it.
That's truly mind-boggling. And Conwell applied this idea not just to, mineral wealth, but to ingenuity too, right? Addressing everyday needs.
Yeah.
There's the story of the carpenter in Hingham, Massachusetts.
Yes, this carpenter, he was out of work, poor. His wife prompted him to just do something. So he's sitting on the bayshore, idly whittling a soaked shingle into a little wooden chain for his kids.
Just passing time.
Right. But then the kids quarreled over it, so he made a second one. A neighbor saw these simple but really durable toys and suggested he whittle toys to sell.
Makes sense.
His first reaction was dismissal, claimed his children were somehow different. But then, by truly listening to his own children in his own house, paying attention to the simple desires and needs right there, he discovered what they genuinely wanted. So, using only firewood and a penknife because he had no money for lumber, he started making those strong, unpainted Hingham toys. They became famous worldwide.
From just firewood and a penknife.
Exactly. This man, who started with literally nothing but local resources and a simple tool, became one of the richest men in Massachusetts. Conwell's point, his enduring point, was you have to judge the human heart by oneself, by one's wife, or by one's children.
Look closer,
Understand local needs, see universal desires reflected right there in your immediate circle.
And the stories keep coming, illustrating the same principle. There was also a woman who invented the snap button.
Indeed. After hearing Conwell speak, this woman in New Britain, Connecticut, she got frustrated with a collar button that kept getting stuck. You know the type.
Oh, yeah. Annoying.
Her husband, maybe kind of making fun of her and Conwell's message, sarcastically challenged her, well, why don't you invent something better and get rich?
Uh-oh.
But instead of being deterred by his ridicule, she was actually motivated. It was a clear, everyday problem right in front of her.
She saw the need.
She quietly set her mind to it and invented the snap button we still use today. That invention led to others, partnerships with factories, and eventually she became wealthy enough to buy her own steamship.
A steamship?
Yeah, and take her husband on summer trips across the sea. It beautifully illustrates how persistence, recognizing a common human need, even a minor daily frustration, and having the courage to act on it can lead to immense success, often born from the very irritations of daily life.
Conwell even had a, maybe controversial philosophy around wealth itself, didn't he? Saying it was a Christian and godly duty to become rich honestly.
He certainly did, and yeah, it was radical for his era, a real departure from the conventional piety. Conwell believed that there is not a poor person in the United States who was not made poor by his own shortcomings, or by the shortcomings of someone else.
That sounds harsh today.
It can sound harsh, maybe oversimplified, lacking nuance about systemic issues we understand better now. But his core point, I think, was to challenge the idea that poverty was somehow virtuous or that wealth was inherently evil.
Right, the sort of pious poverty idea.
Exactly. He called it an awful mistake of these pious people to think you must be awfully poor in order to be pious. For Conwell, becoming rich honestly was a moral obligation because it enabled you to do good, to build institutions to help others. He wasn't advocating for greed, but for active contribution and self-reliance as virtues, using your talents and opportunities to create value in the world.
And he walked the talk, right? He didn't just preach this, he put it into action. Became a real leader, founded a church, 2 hospitals, and maybe most famously, Temple University.
Absolutely. Temple University especially really embodies his vision of harnessing local opportunity and empowering individuals. Its whole ethos was to cultivate strong men and women who can labor with both mind and body.
Practical.
Very. It wasn't just about exclusive academic pursuits, it was explicitly designed to invest in the brains and hearts of the ambitious, providing opportunities for people, even those from far away, to support themselves while they studied.
And that's powerful.
And he built it with devotion from ordinary people who saw its value. Factory workers gave 50 cents each, policemen gave $1 each towards the buildings.
Wow.
It just demonstrates how identifying local needs, recognizing that untapped potential in ambitious individuals, and empowering them with education and practical skills can lead to vast positive societal impact.
Turning individual potential into collective good.
Exactly. It was a tangible example of his acres of diamonds, philosophy applied to education and community building.
So this core idea, opportunity overlooked, waiting to be discovered through observation and action, it resonates deeply, and it leads us perfectly into the power of our own minds in shaping that reality. Earl Nightingale, in The Strangest Secret, he really zeroes in on this, proclaims, we become what we think about.
That's such a foundational truth. Nightingale called this the strangest secret, not because it was unknown, but because, well, even though it's profoundly true, it's often ignored or underestimated.
Right.
He highlighted that throughout history, great thinkers, philosophers, prophets from the Bible, ancient Greece, all the way to modern psychology, they reached a complete and unanimous agreement on this one principle. It's truly universal.
And he cites some incredible wisdom. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor, said, a man's life is what his thoughts make of it.
Exactly. And Benjamin Disraeli echoed this, saying, everything comes if a man would only wait. I have brought myself, by long meditation, to the conviction that a human being with a settled purpose must accomplish it.
That's settled purpose.
And that nothing can resist a will that will stake even existence for its fulfillment. So it's not just passive waiting, right? It's about focused, intentional thought. Ralph Waldo Emerson, similarly, a man is what he thinks about all day long. And William James, recognizing how transformative this idea is, observed that the greatest discovery of my generation is that human beings can alter their lives by altering their attitudes of mind.
Altering attitudes.
He even suggested that if you only care enough for a result, you will almost certainly ascertain it. It's about genuine, focused desire kind of creating its own path.
Nightingale uses such vivid imagery for this. He talks about the human mind as the last great unexplored continent.
It's a powerful metaphor, isn't it? Suggesting our minds contain these riches beyond our wildest dreams. Yet, he laments, it's often undervalued precisely because it's free.
We don't value what's free.
We tend not to, right? We place less value on things given to us for nothing, even though our minds, our souls, hopes, dreams, ambitions, all completely priceless, are indeed free. We often use this incredible resource for just small jobs or let it drift aimlessly instead of unlocking its full transformative potential. Imagine the expeditions we could launch inside our own heads if we just decided to explore.
He also uses the analogy of a ship, which I find really effective.
The ship analogy. A ship with a clearly defined destination, a captain, a crew. It'll almost certainly reach its port, right? It navigates storms, challenges along the way. But take an identical ship, no crew, no captain, no aiming point. Just start its engine and let it go. What happens?
Disaster. It drifts, maybe sinks.
Exactly. It'll either sink or end up a derelict on some deserted beach. This perfectly illustrates the necessity of clear, well-defined goals in our lives. Without a destination, without guidance, we just drift. Our thoughts become that undirected engine, taking us nowhere purposeful.
Les Brown, another phenomenal motivator, he really embodies this purpose-driven thinking.
Yeah.
His personal story is just a testament to the power of vision, even against huge odds.
Brown's story is incredibly inspiring. It speaks to pure grit and self-belief. I mean, despite being labeled educable, mentally retarded in grade school, and facing a total lack of experience and ridicule when trying to break into radio, he pursued his dream of becoming a disc jockey. But his motivation wasn't just the title. It had a deeper personal purpose. To buy his mother a house. He had what he called a big dream for a grass cutter and a big hunger. He highlights that nobody's going to care more about your goals than you. You have to find your own source of hunger, your own motivation, and let it drive you. Operate on your vision for yourself. He persisted even when told no repeatedly, understanding you can't get experience without the opportunity. So he basically created his own opportunity by sheer force of will.
And Tony Robbins takes this even further, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Connecting our beliefs and even our physiology to our ability to achieve goals, like hacking our own systems.
Robbins explains that beliefs act as filters for our perceptions, absolutely, but also as direct commands to our nervous system.
Commands.
Yeah. If you believe you can't do something, your nervous system literally receives that command and starts to restrict your capabilities. He emphasizes that power ultimately is the ability to produce desired results, the ability to consistently take action and get what you want.
Okay.
But what's particularly fascinating is his insight into physiology. He argues that by consciously changing our physical state, our posture, breathing, facial expressions, we can actually influence our mental and emotional states.
Mind-body connection.
Totally. For example, standing tall, lifting your shoulders, taking deep breaths, these things can send powerful signals to your brain that help combat feelings of fatigue or depression. It enhances performance by aligning your body with a desired mental state. It's about taking command of your internal experience, not just reacting to it.
It sounds almost like a trick, but it's really leveraging that profound connection. Speaking of tricks, Zig Ziglar has a fantastic story illustrating self-imposed limits. The Houdini paradox.
Oh, it's such a potent metaphor for the barriers we build ourselves. Houdini, right, master escape artist, famously boasted he could escape any jail cell if he just entered in his street clothes.
Confident.
Very. So a town in the British Isles challenges him. He confidently enters the cell, and for 2 grueling hours, he sweats, he toils, using a hidden piece of steel to pick the lock, convinced he's facing some masterfully engineered mechanism.
Working hard at it.
Trying everything. Finally, exhausted, defeated, he just collapses against the door, and it swings open. It had never been locked, except in his own mind. He was trapped purely by his own belief that it must be locked. Ziglar uses this to emphasize that often one little push or a little extra push is all you need to open an opportunity door you've been convinced is bolted shut.
That's powerful.
It's a powerful reminder that our perception of a barrier is often the greatest barrier itself.
What a collection of insights. So we've explored how a clear vision, a settled purpose, an observant eye can uncover these acres of diamonds right where we are. We see how our internal mindset, our thoughts, even our physical state can be actively harnessed to reshape reality and unlock opportunities. But what happens when that vision isn't just for ourselves?
Right.
When we see an injustice or an opportunity for collective good, how do we translate that inner conviction into a message that actually moves other people to action?
That's precisely where the tools of communication, particularly rhetoric, become absolutely essential. It's not enough to simply have a goal or see an opportunity. You have to be able to articulate it. Persuade others, move them to action. This transition from internal vision to external impact, from individual potential to collective movement, that's where so many of these sources intersect in fascinating, powerful ways. It's about bridging that gap between your inner conviction and the external world.
The architecture of influence, mastering the art of persuasion.
Okay, let's turn to the ancient wisdom on communication then, because it provides such a powerful framework for understanding how we influence others. Aristotle, in his rhetoric, lays out these 3 foundational pillars of persuasion, still incredibly relevant.
Yes, Aristotle identifies ethos, pathos, and logos. So logos refers to the logical appeal, right? Showing truth through persuasive arguments, using reason, evidence.
The facts, the structure.
Think of it as the clear, well-structured facts that make an argument sound. Then there's pathos. That's the appeal to the hearer's emotions, moving them from grief to delight or hostility to friendship.
Connecting on a human level.
Exactly. Making the audience feel what you want them to feel. But Aristotle argued, most decisively perhaps, is ethos, the character of the speaker.
Character? How so?
It's about making the speaker seem trustworthy. And this trustworthiness, he stressed, it ought to come about through the speech itself, through how you conduct yourself in your words and actions during the speech, not just relying on some prior reputation.
It's built in the moment.
It's how you present yourself through your words that truly builds credibility and makes people believe you.
That sounds incredibly sophisticated, a true art form. But Plato, in dialogues like Gorgias and Phaedrus, he offered a more critical view, didn't he? Even scathing, about how rhetoric was often practiced back then.
He did, yeah. In Gorgias, Socrates launches this fierce critique famously dismissing much of oratories as mere pandering. He called it kolokia.
Kolokia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He saw it not as a true art, a techne based on knowledge and principles, but more like a knack acquired by routine, like cookery or beauty culture, things that might flatter you but don't genuinely improve you.
Ouch.
And he made this crucial distinction. Conviction based on knowledge, he said, must be true, whereas conviction based just on belief can be false. Socrates argued that much of oratory, especially when you're talking to an ignorant mass audience, aims for belief, not truth. This ancient warning from Plato, it feels strikingly relevant today, doesn't it?
It really does.
It forces you to ask, am I being genuinely informed here? Or am I just being flattered or swayed by skillful but maybe ultimately empty rhetoric?
So he wasn't dismissing the idea of rhetoric entirely, but more its common, often manipulative practice. Because in Phaedrus, he seems to develop a more nuanced take on what true rhetoric could actually be.
Precisely. In Phaedrus, Socrates goes deeper. He contrasts Lysias's self-interested, poorly structured speech with this ideal of a true rhetoric that's intimately linked to knowledge and truth. He develops the concept of psychagogia.
Psychagogia, what's that?
It translates roughly as the leading of the soul. And it's not just about rational argument, it's about deeply captivating, inspiring, maybe even subtly enchanting an audience to guide their thinking towards what is genuinely good and true.
Leading the soul.
The term itself carries connotations of almost magical allurement, highlighting the immense power of skilled communication for good or ill. For Plato, true rhetoric wouldn't just persuade, it would guide the soul towards the genuinely good and true. And that demands a speaker who knows the truth and speaks from that foundation.
Okay, so if Plato was looking for rhetoric to be this true art grounded in knowledge, Quintilian, the Roman rhetorician and educator, he really champions it as an art in his Institutio Oratoria, emphasizing its practical mastery.
Quintilian indeed saw rhetoric as a noblest and most sublime art, not just a talent for exercising wits or some shallow knack. He acknowledged logical arguments, enthymemes, which are basically rhetorical arguments relying on shared, often unstated assumptions rather than strict logic.
Right.
But he stressed that genuine eloquence must be rich, beautiful, and commanding, not just broken up into conclusive inferences like some dry philosophical treatise.
More impactful.
Much more. He famously said it should flow as mighty rivers flow, filling whole valleys, suggesting this holistic, impactful delivery that kind of overwhelms and moves the audience, rather than just intellectually convincing them. It's about the full experience, not just the syllogisms.
And his practical advice extends to how a speaker needs to adapt, right? To different situations, different audiences, which is crucial for real-world impact.
Absolutely. Quintilian stressed the crucial need to adjust your style, your tone, even your emotional intensity, based on who you're talking to, whether it's an emperor, a magistrate, the fickle populace, or some rustic judge in a village.
You can't use the same speech for everyone.
No way. The careful, detailed display of care and amplification you'd use in a capital case would be ridiculous for some minor dispute. He also highlighted the importance of the speaker's character, things like courtesy, kindliness, moderation, benevolence, but also the ability to show passion in the public interest or to avenge wrong. It's about a versatile and authentic projection of character that resonates with a specific context and audience, demonstrating not just skill, but also, appropriate moral gravitas and emotional connection.
This brings us squarely into the modern era with Simon Sinek and his concept of starting with why. It feels like it echoes some of those ancient calls for authentic connection.
That's right. Sinek's golden circle, it hinges on this profound idea that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it.
Yeah.
He uses Apple as a prime example. Their loyal customers aren't just buying innovative products, they're buying into Apple's purpose.
Which was originally...
Which, from its origins, was something like to give the individual the power to stand up to established power, to empower dreamers, challenge the status quo. That why resonates far deeper than any feature list.
So it's not just about the tangible features and benefits then, it's something more primal.
Precisely. While features and benefits appeal to the rational, analytical part of our brain, our neocortex Sinek argues the why speaks directly to our limbic brain.
The emotional center.
Right. Responsible for feelings, trust, decision-making, but interestingly, not language. Which is why articulating the why can sometimes be difficult, but it's incredibly powerful. It leads to those gut decisions that just feel right. Leaders, he says, are essentially vision preachers, constantly reminding people why they showed up in the first place. He points to figures like Martin Luther King Jr.'s march to Montgomery, where the meaning of crossing that bridge mattered far more than the physical act itself. And Sam Walton's initial success with Walmart built on a clear why of bringing value to small communities before maybe profit became the sole overriding focus later on.
When we look at orators in action, figures like Demosthenes really embody this blend, don't they? Ancient rhetorical skill and a powerful, purpose-driven voice in a crisis.
Demosthenes was a master of urgency. He used his oratory to rouse Athens against the encroaching threat of Philip of Macedon, stressing self-reliance, direct action. He didn't just present facts. He used vivid imagery, rhetorical questions, powerful appeals to Athenian pride and their history of loving freedom.
Igniting passion.
Absolutely. Even his rival, Aeschines, who often criticized him, acknowledged Demosthenes' skillful use of modulations, vocal techniques, shifts in tone and volume to deeply move his audience, almost physically compelling them to feel the danger. His speeches weren't just about argument. They were about igniting a collective will to act, to take up arms, defend their city.
And Cicero, the great Roman orator, he certainly admired Demosthenes. He spoke about the ideal orator in De Orator, really defining what it meant to lead with words.
Cicero's ideal orator was someone accommodate to persuading, focused on the practical and forensic uses of language. He envisioned an orator who could not only argue logically, but also delight and move an audience emotionally, all while appearing to be a person of good character.
The whole package.
Right. He emphasized the dedication and immense labor required to achieve this mastery, much like Demosthenes' own tireless efforts. What's particularly noteworthy is Cicero's recognition that eloquence could, in some ways, exist independently of philosophy.
Oh, interesting. Unlike Plato.
Yeah. While Socrates had critiqued rhetoric for lacking a basis in truth, Cicero highlighted the sheer skill of the orator in influencing opinion and action. He even suggested an orator might operate effectively without necessarily delving into every philosophical definition. For Cicero, the skill of communication itself, the ability to command attention and move minds, was a profound and necessary power in the public sphere.
What a fascinating spectrum. From ancient Greece and Rome to modern boardrooms, this ability to articulate a clear why, build credibility, persuade others, it's paramount. But as you said, this isn't just about personal success or selling something. It's a vital tool for those who dare to challenge the status quo, push for a more just world. It's about giving voice to the voiceless.
Precisely. These principles of communication become even more potent and, frankly, more ethically charged when they're deployed in the service of justice.
Yeah.
It often requires immense courage, immense resilience. It's about using those rhetorical muscles, not for personal gain, but to confront systems built on lies or injustice, to demand equality, and to move societies towards a more humane path. This is where rhetoric transcends mere skill and becomes, well, almost a moral imperative.
Speaking truth to power. The call for justice and change.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. When individual voices rise up to challenge these deeply entrenched systems, often at great personal risk, figures like Sojourner Truth truly embody speaking truth to power from the absolute margins of society.
Her presence at the Fourth National Women's Rights Convention in New York, 1853, it was legendary. Deeply courageous. She was described as a tall, colored woman, a Libyan Sibyl, who combined, as the text says, the two most hated elements of humanity, being both black and a woman.
Facing a hostile mob, too.
Facing a hostile mob, even threats of violence. Yet she stood calm and dignified, described as a grand, wise woman who could neither read nor write, and yet with deep insight could penetrate the very soul of the universe.
Amazing description.
Isn't it? Her famous, powerful line, "I can't read a book, but I can read the people." It just speaks volumes about her profound, intuitive understanding of injustice, of human nature, the power dynamics at play. She was this powerful, unshakable force who cut through intellectual arguments with simple, undeniable truth rooted in her lived experience.
And even earlier than Sojourner Truth, Maria W. Stewart was breaking barriers, demanding justice for her race in a truly unprecedented way for her time.
Maria W. Stewart's journey is remarkable, and yet often overlooked. From being an indentured servant, she managed to get an education through free Sunday schools and became one of America's first women to lecture publicly to mixed audiences of men and women.
Which was scandalous then.
Utterly scandalous for a woman, let alone a black woman in the 1830s. Her call was for true piety and virtue among her race, to regain that which we have lost, urging self-improvement, moral uplift. But she also directly demanded an equal opportunity with the white, from the cradle to manhood and from manhood to the grave.
Wow, that's incredibly bold.
Extraordinarily bold for her time. pushing against deeply ingrained societal norms, racial prejudice, not just by speaking, but by her very presence and her refusal to be silenced.
These women and so many others, they face incredible hostility. The sources we looked at paint a really stark picture of the mob spirit, the pervasive racial violence that underscored the urgency of their calls.
Indeed. The historical context reveals these horrifying accounts of racial violence, systemic injustice, like the lynchings the assaults described. We read about the case of Miss Camphor in Baltimore, an Afro-American girl assaulted by 3 white men who were then acquitted despite the heinous act.
Acquitted.
Acquitted.
Oh.
Or Pat Hannafin in Nashville, a white man who outraged a little Afro-American girl, jailed for only 6 months, then inexplicably becomes a detective in the same city.
Unbelievable.
And the contrast is stark. When a white man was accused in Nashville, the fear of an Afro-American mob led to 250 armed white citizens and state militia protecting the accused. But compare that to the brutal lynching of Epgerserd, who was only charged with rape upon a white woman. Taken from jail despite the governor and police being present, subjected to every fiendish cruelty a frenzied mob could devise.
It's horrific.
It highlights the deeply unequal justice system and the insidious role of a malicious and untruthful white press in perpetuating harmful narratives, like more rapes, more lynchings, even when there was zero evidence of such crimes in a city like Memphis. It just underscores the monumental stakes involved for voices of truth speaking out. It was literally life and death. These speakers often risked everything.
Moving into the 20th century, Harvey Milk, the pioneering LGBTQ+ rights activist, he really understood the power of visibility as a direct counter to these kinds of harmful myths and stereotypes.
Milk's argument was profoundly insightful and very strategic. He asserted that the gay community shouldn't be judged by criminals and myths, just like the Spanish or Asian or Italian communities shouldn't be judged by theirs.
Right.
Instead, he insisted the community should be judged by its leaders, by those who are visible. His powerful statement, "Invisible, we remain in limbo," a shadowy myth, it underscored the critical importance of representation.
Being seen matters.
Hugely. By being seen, by breaking out of the shadows, by simply living openly and proudly, they could dismantle stereotypes, humanize their community, demand to be judged as whole individuals, not caricatures or threats. For Milk, visibility wasn't just about pride. It was a fundamental act of political and personal liberation.
These courageous individual acts, from Sojourner Truth to Harvey Milk, they really lay the groundwork for a broader, systemic fight for justice. Like the work exemplified by Ruth Bader Ginsburg's career, often changing laws one case at a time.
Ginsburg's fight for gender equality was methodical, yes, deeply strategic, and incredibly persistent. She worked tirelessly on issues like gender discrimination under the Equal Protection Clause and the Equal Rights Amendment, the ERA.
Right.
She noted that back in the 1970s, an astounding 876 sections of the U.S. Code contained sex-based references, creating this legal labyrinth of gender inequality.
876 sections.
Yeah. She highlighted that without the impetus of the ERA, Congress was often unwilling to ban sex discrimination, even in things like university admissions, clinging to outdated notions. Her work was about dismantling these pervasive, often invisible, legal structures of inequality, demonstrating how persistent, reasoned legal arguments can chip away at systemic discrimination. She literally changed how the law saw men and women.
And she recognized that the Founding Fathers, despite their revolutionary ideals, had an incomplete vision of equality that needed to evolve over time.
That's right. Ginsburg observed that the founders, while rebelling against patriarchal power themselves, were held back from fully perceiving or acting upon ideals of human equality, just given the historical context of their time. She cited Thomas Jefferson's reluctance to appoint women to public office as an example, despite his progressive rhetoric elsewhere. She viewed the history of the U.S. Constitution not as some static document, but as a story of the extension of constitutional rights and protections to once excluded groups.
An ongoing process.
A continuous, ongoing process of evolving towards a more inclusive vision of human dignity and equality, driven by the persistent voices of those demanding it.
And her famous judicial dissents, they were often part of a long-term strategy for change, weren't they? Speaking not just to the present, but almost to the future, like laying breadcrumbs.
Her view on the power of judicial dissents is particularly insightful, yeah. Reflects that long-term vision. She saw some dissents as direct appeals to Congress, hey, fix this law. But others, she said, were appeals to the intelligence of a future day, laying groundwork for eventual shifts in legal interpretation. planting seeds of argument that might ripen years, even decades later. It demonstrates this profound, long-term commitment to justice. Understanding that societal and legal change is often a marathon, not a sprint. And sometimes you have to speak truth not for today's ears, but for tomorrow's.
Theodore Roosevelt also spoke to a form of justice, didn't he? Demanding genuine equality of opportunity as a cornerstone for a healthy society.
Roosevelt distinguished genuine equality of opportunity for every man to show the stuff there is in him, from mere equality of reward. He recognized that inequality of service justly leads to inequality of reward. Everyone should have a fair shot, basically, but not necessarily an equal outcome, reflected his rugged individualism.
Right.
But his intervention in the anthracite coal strike, for instance, it wasn't just to avert a public calamity, fear of riots, acute misery for poorer people. He also explicitly said his goal was to save the big propertied men from their own folly.
Interesting.
Demonstrating a leader's role in balancing diverse interests for the collective good, even if it meant confronting the propertied class and forcing them to compromise. He understood that national greatness depended on self-mastery, the capacity to work for and with others, and that an unchecked pursuit of self-interest could destabilize the whole system.
It's clear that the struggle for justice is enduring, and many of these movements are deeply interconnected. Kurt Vonnegut, in his, characteristic wit and profound humanity, he surprisingly redefines abolitionists in a way that feels incredibly relevant today.
Vonnegut, yeah, with his classic blend of cynicism and deep compassion. He broadened the term abolitionists way beyond just the fight against slavery. For him, it included anyone who fights for governments to behave justly and mercifully and respectfully toward all its citizens, regardless of their social or political power. He suggests the strength for such passions, for human rights, often derives from inherited guilt about the unspeakably hideous crime of slavery, which, he argues, forms so much of the nation's foundational wealth.
Wow, that's a strong statement.
It is. And he also passionately champions freedom of speech, stating the government shouldn't exist to keep you or anybody else from getting your damn fool feelings hurt. It challenges us to consider this continuous, broad-based fight for fundamental fairness, respect, and the right to speak uncomfortable truths, even when they're inconvenient or offensive to some.
And Theodore M. Shaw echoes this idea of interconnectedness among various liberation movements, arguing you really can't separate them.
Shaw powerfully argues that liberation movements based on sex, race, ethnicity, sexuality, classical pairs, they're an inseparable movement. He posits that racial caste and sexual caste are intertwined, interdependent, and inseparable.
Because the underlying structures are the same.
Because the same underlying prejudices and power structures often perpetuate both forms of discrimination. Therefore, he concludes, it's impossible to be a feminist without also being an anti-racist, and vice versa. It highlights that justice isn't segmented. Systemic inequalities are deeply interlinked, requiring a unified, holistic approach to true liberation, a recognition of shared struggle. You can't truly dismantle one without addressing the others.
This, of course, brings to mind Martin Luther King Jr.'s timeless dream, which just encapsulates so much of what we've been discussing.
Absolutely. King's vision, where people will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character, it remains this enduring call for fundamental justice and equality. A dream that continues to inspire. It speaks to the ultimate goal of these movements, a society where inherent human dignity is recognized above all superficial divisions. And we see this courage echoed globally by figures like Nelson Mandela. His defiant stand against apartheid made him a worldwide symbol for anti-racism, demonstrating the immense power of speaking truth to power, even facing overwhelming oppression, long imprisonment. His unwavering commitment, sustained over decades, shows the ultimate impact of that inner conviction.
These powerful examples, they demonstrate the profound impact individuals and movements can have, speaking out for justice, demanding change, often against immense opposition. But that kind of courage, that resilience in the face of suffering, systemic cruelty, it has to come from somewhere deep within, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
It's not just about external action. It feels like there's a fierce internal battle, too.
Absolutely. The external fight for justice is inextricably linked to an internal one. Confronting shame, maintaining empathy, finding meaning even in the most traumatic circumstances. It's the inner landscape that sustains the outer struggle. Our next section, it really delves into this vital internal landscape, showing how resilience is forged, how hope is sustained, even in the face of unspeakable hardship.
The inner journey, confronting shame, cultivating hope, and finding meaning.
Okay, so we've talked about external action, speaking truth to power, but equally vital is our inner landscape. Brené Brown's research into vulnerability and shame offers such profound insights into how we connect, or maybe fail to connect, with others, and how that impacts our ability to live fully.
Brown's work, reveals that fundamentally, to feel is to be vulnerable. She argues that rejecting vulnerability, trying to numb it or hide from it, is, in essence, to walk away from the very thing that gives purpose and meaning to living.
Wow, walk away from meaning.
Because it's the birthplace of love, belonging, joy, courage, empathy, and creativity. What's fascinating is that vulnerability isn't inherently good or bad. It's just the core of all emotions. That shared human experience that allows for connection. Trying to avoid the discomfort of vulnerability means cutting ourselves off from the very experiences that make life rich and meaningful.
And she makes a really crucial distinction about shame, which often gets confused with guilt.
Right. Shame, in Brown's definition, is the fear of not being worthy of real connection. It's that gut-wrenching feeling that I am bad rather than I did something bad, which is guilt.
Big difference.
Huge difference. When shame descends, she says it literally hijacks the limbic system, the emotional center of our brain, overriding rational thought and pushing us towards hiding, isolation.
So how do you deal with that?
To cultivate shame resilience, she suggests strategies like speaking shame, actually naming and articulating how you feel to a trusted person and reaching out to others, which is often totally counterintuitive when shame is pushing you to isolate.
Right, you want to hide.
Exactly. She also explains trust through this vivid marble jar analogy, where trust is this slow-building, layered process of small, consistent actions. Illustrated by Ellen's painful experience of betrayal in 3rd grade, where trust was just shattered by a single public act, losing her sense of safety. Trust is built in drops, lost in buckets sometimes.
The marble jar. I like that. Kurt Vonnegut, in his characteristic style, he also touches on a related concept he calls empathy deficit disorder, which seems to speak to a breakdown in this fundamental human connection.
Vonnegut's concept of EDD, empathy deficit disorder, it highlights the critical need for leaders and individuals alike to link empathy to reason and action to avert unnecessary suffering. He suggests a cure for EDD is essential for building a more humane world, arguing that a lack of empathy in decision-making leads to profound human cost. He also poignantly observes that we are so lonely because we don't have enough friends and relatives, and that human beings are supposed to live in stable, like-minded, extended families of 50 people or more.
50 people.
Yeah. He speculates that marriage collapses because families are too small, and one man or woman can't be a whole society to each other, leading many individuals to go to pieces. It's a striking commentary on the modern erosion of genuine, extended community, and that profound human need for deep, consistent connection beyond just the nuclear family.
These ideas about connection, vulnerability, they become even more poignant when we consider individuals who faced unimaginable suffering, like Elie Wiesel and Viktor Frankl. Their work explores finding meaning, maintaining humanity, in the face of just profound trauma.
Wiesel, a Holocaust survivor and such a profound moral voice, he spoke of his generation as a traumatized generation, grappling with the immense difficulty of memory, particularly for the anonymous wanderers in the night going to the flames.
The burden of memory.
Yeah, he felt the dilemma of imposing memory on future generations, knowing he couldn't possibly remember every single face, every untold thought, yet understanding the absolute imperative to bear witness. He made this chilling observation about the Holocaust.
Yeah.
It wasn't just hate, like in a passionate, explosive pogrom. It was a scientific industry of death.
An industry.
A parallel universe, he called it, where the killing of 10,000 people a day occurred systematically, almost without feeling, because of its industrial efficiency, its bureaucratic detachment. This organized, systematic cruelty divorced from individual, fiery hate. It's truly terrifying in its implications for human depravity.
That systematic, almost detached cruelty is...
Yeah, it's terrifying. It really changes how you think about evil.
It fundamentally challenges our understanding of human depravity. Wiesel's core belief, though, was that amidst this horror, life is sacred, death is not. He argued that any life is worthier, is holier than all that has been written about life, emphasizing the inherent, incomparable value of individual existence. He also lamented the humiliation of the elderly, questioning why we sometimes prolong life only to subject individuals to such indignity. His message is this profound affirmation of the inherent value of every single human life, a desperate plea for dignity even in the shadow of absolute dehumanization. And Viktor Frankl, also a Holocaust survivor, he developed his entire philosophy of logotherapy, meaning-centered therapy, from his experiences in Auschwitz, which is maybe one of the most powerful testaments to human resilience imaginable.
Frankl's logotherapy, it focuses on healing the soul by guiding the soul to find meaning in life. He observed that prisoners, after overcoming the initial shock and losing their fear of death, faced this deeper existential frustration, a loss of the will to meaning.
The will to meaning.
He saw how some prisoners were able to maintain their humanity, find glimmers of meaning even in the most horrific circumstances. For example, he recalls a foreman who, despite his harsh role, secretly gave Frankl a piece of bread. But more than the bread, it was something humanizing. In his words, his gaze.
Small act of connection.
This small act of kindness in that hellish environment proved that individual moral choice was still possible and profoundly impactful, even for survival itself. Meaning, he argued, wasn't something to be found outside, but something to be created from within, even in the most abject circumstances.
He also had that powerful insight about good and bad races that profoundly challenges conventional notions of collective guilt or group identity.
Frankl's profound insight, born from witnessing extreme cruelty and extreme compassion side by side at the camps, was that there are only two races of human beings in this world: the race of decent men and the race of indecent men.
Decent and indecent.
Exactly. And crucially, he emphasized that these two races are found everywhere. In every group, every nation, even among both prisoners and guards within the concentration camps. It calls us to recognize the individual capacity for good or evil, the individual moral choice, rather than judging entire groups or assigning collective guilt. It's a powerful message that transcends easy categorization and points to individual responsibility for our actions, our attitudes, regardless of our circumstances.
This journey into internal fortitude, it connects surprisingly well with ancient Stoic philosophy too. Particularly Seneca's advice in his Letters from a Stoic offers almost a practical guide for inner steadfastness while navigating external society.
Seneca presents this fascinating, almost paradoxical piece of advice. Inwardly, we ought to be different in all respects, but our exterior should conform to society. Conform.
Well, it's not about hypocrisy or betraying values. It suggests a way to maintain personal integrity and philosophical principles without needlessly alienating others or engaging in, conspicuous self-display that might repel the very people you wish to influence or improve.
Okay. Strategic conformity.
Kind of. He argued against, say, repellent attire or slovenly beards if they would frighten away and repel the very persons whom we're trying to improve. The goal is to elevate, to inspire change, not to distance yourself through superficial nonconformity. It's about being strategically wise in how you present your internal truth to the world.
So, hold true to your values, but do it gracefully, effectively. He also speaks about the unwavering nature of virtue itself. Seneca believed that virtue is not changed by the matter with which it deals. Whether life's circumstances are hard and stubborn or pleasant and joyous, virtue itself remains constant and equal. An honorable act is voluntary, free from fear, and maintains self-approval. If you alloy it with reluctance or fear, he argued, it loses its best characteristic.
So virtue is internal, steadfast.
For the Stoics, true virtue is unwavering and internally driven. A choice, not just a reaction to external events. He also interestingly cautioned against intemperance and seeking knowledge beyond what is sufficient, criticizing those who become engrossed with the useless furniture of learning.
Useless furniture of learning.
Like the scholar Didymus, who apparently wrote 4,000 books on trivial subjects. Seneca, through this anecdote, gives us this powerful reminder. True wisdom isn't just about collecting endless facts, but about discerning what's essential and applying it. A lesson maybe even more critical in our hyper-information age today.
Absolutely. And Theodore Roosevelt, whom we mentioned earlier in the context of justice, he also connects this idea of self-mastery back to national greatness, the well-being of civilization itself.
Roosevelt's observation really links the individual to the collective beautifully. He noted that national greatness doesn't just rely on individual strength, bravery, and hardihood. It equally demands the power of self-restraint, the power of self-mastery, the capacity to work for and with others as well as for oneself, the power of giving to others the love which each of us must bear for his neighbor.
Wow.
This insight beautifully links individual character and inner discipline, that Stoic self-mastery we just discussed, directly to the flourishing of an entire civilization. He understood that our internal world, our capacity for self-control, for empathy, directly contributes to collective well-being and the strength of a nation. demonstrating that true power comes not just from might, but from character.
What a journey this has been. Seriously. From finding opportunities hidden in plain sight, to mastering the ancient and modern art of persuasive communication, to standing up for justice, even in the face of immense opposition, and finally to nurturing our inner resilience against life's greatest challenges. This deep dive has really shown us just how profoundly interconnected all these aspects of the human experience truly are.
We've seen that the drive for personal achievement, when it's imbued with purpose, anchored by integrity, it can become a powerful force for collective good.
Right.
And that the ability to articulate that purpose, to truly persuade and connect with others, well, that's a skill that empowers not just individuals, but entire societies to move towards more just and humane future.
And through it all, this emphasis on authenticity, empathy, the courage to live in alignment with our deepest values, it emerges as a recurring, undeniable theme. Whether it's Frankel's search for meaning in Auschwitz or Brené Brown's scientific evidence for vulnerability,
Right.
the message seems clear. Our internal world shapes our external impact, and our commitment to truth within ourselves is really the bedrock for challenging the lies outside.
These insights, they invite you, our listener, to consider not just what you do, but why you do it. To look for those acres of diamonds in your own life, your own environment. To hone your ability to communicate your truth with both conviction and empathy, and to find meaning and connection in every step of your journey, even, maybe especially, when the path is difficult.
So as you reflect on these rich perspectives, here's a final provocative thought for you. If our minds are indeed the last great unexplored continent, what vast undiscovered opportunities for self-mastery and positive change lie within you, simply waiting for a clear goal, a courageous voice, and maybe just a dash of empathy to bring them to life. The world, in all its complexity and potential, is waiting for you to lead the expedition.